Hello, my lovely audience, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. When I say back, I mean for 3 days in a row, we're talking about some legal confusion area. I'm very, very confused about some issues legally with my friend Tom Mansell. So that's why we decided to still talk about that area, yet this probably another angle. Joining me in stretching out the discussion is my good friend Nathaniel Clark, attorney at law with the law offices of Scott Wormuth and Associates. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack. It's my
Notice
pleasure
I
to be
served
here.
you. Okay, very good. Mr. Clark is a wonderful attorney and a reliable source of information all the time. I explained to my audience last time when Scott and Justin Rodriguez were here, I said, to me, they are not only attorneys, they are the ones that every time I have a crying baby, I bring to the mother. All right, good. Now today I'm talking about another crying baby. So I'm bringing the baby to you. The baby being a bunch of folks are being sued for delaying their lunch hours. And the fact is that they have 193 employees who's been working there for decades. I met some of them. One of them there 36 years, one for 27 years, one for 18 years, one for 11 years, the shortest for 11 years. And another fact is that there are fathers, sons, mothers, sons, husband and wives. They work in the same environment. So they prefer to eat lunch together like a family lunch.
Right.
Something like that, right? And for that, they violated the PAGA, which I never knew, law of 5 hours of code or whatever. So for that, the owners are being sued. And lots of workers joined the bar, say, hey, we stand by you. We're willing to testify. We're not suffering anything. Something like that.
Right.
So how does the situation sound to you in the eye of attorney, please?
Well, it's a very difficult balance to strike. The balance between protecting individuals in our society and preventing the frivolous abuse of lawsuits.
All right.
So, Jack, I think the biggest struggle that lawyers encounter in the law is finding that balance between taking advantage of a law such as PAGA that exists and provides powerful remedies for consumers, and knowing when to exercise your judgment and not bring a lawsuit that is going to damage the community and really cause more harm than good. Now, the purpose of PAGA, Private Attorney General's Act, was to allow citizens to and create the enforcement of laws that are consistent with the public interest. So the law was created with a good intention. The problem is when it is abused, and it sounds like in this situation it is potentially being abused.
All right, all right. And I especially noticed the word, there is quite a difference between protection and abuse.
Yes.
Right? And you're trying the law with the purpose of trying to protect, in other words, to protect the aggrieved.
Yes,
right?
sir, exactly.
And yet advantages are being taken. So lawyers, that's where good lawyers kick in, say, hey, it's not a case, it's not my case, or it is a good case, or something like that, right? So by the way, Scott and I, we go back for many, many, many years, more than 25, close to 30. I've been here for 34, so very trustworthy friend. His associate, Mr. Clark, is here helping us, right? So the credit still goes to Scott, half and half. How about that, 50-50?
Absolutely. It really is an honor to be working for Scott. It's so rare to have a law firm that is dedicated to the community.
And also, I would like to bring it to my audience attention. It is hard for attorney to say what he said.
Well,
do you agree with me?
It shouldn't be. I agree with you.
No, it shouldn't be, but it is a fact.
Yes.
Right? The fact is even worse. There are hungry attorneys, so hungry that they do everything.
And you know, part of the issue, Jack, is that attorneys are trained to be that way. So you're almost asking an animal, if you will, pardon the metaphor, to go against their instinct.
All right.
But that's why, you know, we're humans, and humans have that judgment. But the truth of the matter is, in law school and early on in a lawyer's career, they're trained to be as aggressive as possible. So that judgment really needs to come from within, and it really should be more common. But I will say that, you know, the vast majority of lawyers, in my opinion, do have that proper judgment. But it's the ones that really stand out that give a bad name.
And the last time I was with my friend, Marianne Maloney, she is the regional manager for CALA, California Citizens Against Law Abuse.
Great.
And according to her, there are attorneys who have a measure tape in hand, drive around, measure everything. And then when one scenario is discovered, a letter say demanding pay me such and such, or I will sue you. And they make a living on that.
Right.
So was that an exaggeration? Was that a fact?
It's not an exaggeration. There is a term called a career plaintiff. And a career plaintiff is an individual whose primary source of income is from generating lawsuits.
All right.
Now, this sounds to me like probably an issue with the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yeah, ADA.
Which is, in all honesty, a fantastic, powerful law that protects people when they really need it. I've personally seen plaintiffs that, if not for the Americans with Disabilities Act, they would be in a very bad place in society. So it's, again, a law that was created with good intentions. But here's the problem, Jack. Many of these laws create very strict rules that are easy to violate, even if you're trying to do the right thing.
All right.
With the Americans with Disabilities Act, the measuring and the violation could be something as simple as a toilet paper rack not being at the proper height.
A doorknob.
A doorknob.
It's supposed to be a door leveler instead of knob.
And now we understand that it's important to help people in a wheelchair, absolutely. But on the other hand, is it right to financially punish a business owner who is not acting with bad intentions?
All right.
And so when you have someone going from business to business, simply trying to find technical violations, just a mere measurement, when there's no actual harm, that's a problem.
To me, you know, sir, my biggest problem is that I kind of like having the hardest time understanding for a mirror to be lower, 1 inch lower than it's supposed to be. Anybody dies from that?
Well, you're right. The issue is there any actual harm?
Actually, yes.
Right.
How do you describe or interpret your harm in dollar terms?
And that's a very difficult challenge in the law.
Yeah.
How do you figure out what that equals? And it's in the American judicial system, the way it works is harm is usually valued in money. However, with the Americans with Disabilities Act, there is something called injunctive relief.
All right.
Which actually the cure in the lawsuit would be move that mirror down an inch. That would be the resolution.
All right.
Now, if the plaintiffs and lawyers were actually acting with good intentions, you'd think that they would accept that. You know, okay, just lower the mirror and I'll go away.
Yeah.
But if it's really just about, you know, a couple $1,000s here and there, extracting money from small businesses, that's not right. That's not why that law was created in the first place.
Yeah. And even worse, it gets even worse that the law does not allow any type of corrections. Offense is offense. Per offense cases, you're talking about $4,000, another $4,000, another $4,000 per finding.
Exactly.
That hurts. That hurts business owners, and we'll come back talk about it. Today, my dear audiences, my lovely friends, I feel so proud of myself because I have my friend, Nathaniel Clerk, an attorney, wonderful attorney, very aggressive attorney, yet very rational, very reasonable, because he, like I said, and we're not that kind of animals, we just being aggressive, but we are also human animals. Human animals think logically. And it is hard for an attorney to say that. Thanks to my dear friend Scott Wormuth, he only associates with the good ones. Very good. Let's take a very short moment out. When we come back, we'll continue talking about good laws versus the bad laws, good lawyers versus the bad ones. So stay with us. Hello, my friends, my lovely audience, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. It is for 2 times in a row. I was in a show talking about law abuse. The PAGA law really got me confused, and I have another one scheduled for tomorrow. I don't know, is it PAGA week or what? I don't know. So happened that way. So in time between, which is today, I really crying for help. I cried for help. I had my friend Nathaniel Clerk coming here to help me. He is a wonderful attorney of the law offices of Scott Wormuth and Associates. Scott is a good friend of mine, very, very years, a long time, very, very long time tested friend. So thank you for the help, Scott, and thank you, sir, for coming here to help.
My pleasure.
All right, very good. I like your take. For that, honestly, I salute, because attorneys do not talk about that. They don't talk that way, right? And I have a friend named David Houston in Pasadena, where you were born, right? Okay.
Raised in Pasadena.
I am born and raised. Okay.
Born in New York, but
all right,
okay.
Good. Raised in Pasadena. He's a restaurant owner. There's one day, there's a customer, and customer insisted that his dog stays on the table to eat. And the owner says, no, now you gotta let dog down, right? Because we have other customers, we have prodigals ourselves. And then he rose and left. The customer rose and left. And a while later, they got a lawsuit because that was a service dog. And for that, the owner, Mr. David Houston, he is a very stubborn guy. I like his stubbornness. He said he will fight. He did fight.
Good.
He fought for at least, like, say, 2 years or 2 years and a half thing.
It's an average length.
Yeah. You know what the cost of his fighting? To win where he was. To win just to where he was. $900,000. Almost $1 million.
That's shocking.
Yeah, right. And yet, well, all he got was where he was.
Right.
He brought himself back to where he was.
Right.
So, in attorney's eye, well, I want you to tell my audiences, is that something like right-minded people would do?
Well, I will say that it does seem like a very high amount of attorney's fees, but that highlights the problem.
All
because in America, the basic rule is that you have to pay for your own attorney's fees.
All right.
So if you are sued and have to defend yourself, well, obviously most people are not qualified to go into court and defend their own lawsuit, Jack. So they have to hire an attorney.
Yeah.
It's a drain on resources automatically, even if you are completely in the right. Even if you have nothing to hide and you did nothing wrong. Simply defending a lawsuit will cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And once again, you know, money is time, money is business, money is everything that the business owner has worked to build up. And so it's not fair. It's not fair because it automatically creates this burden on them. Now, what's the solution? Well, in other countries, there is a rule where if you lose a lawsuit, you have to pay for the other side's attorney's fees.
Loser pay.
Loser pays.
Loser pays, right? That's a good law. That's better. That's much better. That's much better. Okay, loser pay, winner pay. For attorney, I get paid because I put out work. That's reasonable, right? And that would not give any bad attorneys any excuse to drive around for cases. Because anyway, who wins, who loses, I pay. I get the same pay, right? So that's fair on one page. And on the other hand, those, so you say, what again? Career plaintiff?
Career plaintiff.
They will have to think twice.
Right.
When I created the case, right?
Exactly. Now, it's not quite that simple because in California we have many different nuances in the law which create similar effects.
Okay.
For example, in California, you can make an offer, and if the plaintiff doesn't do better than that offer, the plaintiff will actually have to pay a lot of the defense costs. So that encourages a lot of settlement, but it's not as powerful as loser automatically pays.
All right. Okay.
However, something to keep in mind is that a lot of businesses smartly include attorney's fees clauses in their contracts with their customers, which creates this contract that says loser pays attorney's fees.
You see.
But that can be dangerous because if you lose, now you pay attorney's fees. So a lot of businesses, they make the decision that they don't want to have the loser pays included in their contracts because there are pros and cons for both sides. But I think your point is, you know, it's not fair for someone who did nothing wrong to automatically have to invest a lot of resources to defend a case. And I understand that.
And that poor Houston had another case. I don't know why he is always a target, right? And there's a situation that he was sued in a work comp cases for unpaid overtime.
Right.
And the overtime, when they classed together, all right, in a situation when the employee is on a lunch break walking out of the restaurant, there might come a customer asking where's the restroom. And this employee turns around, oh, it's over there, like that. That taken probably 3-5 seconds, something like that.
Right.
And given the years, the months, and the shifts, and the days all together, it ends up huge.
With penalties.
With penalties, and punitive whatever.
Of course.
Right, thing. And this poor Houston had to do another fight.
And did he win? I would
It's
hope.
in the process of it.
It's in the process.
In the process of it.
So
how
again,
do you interpret a situation like that?
I think that it speaks to the challenge of the legislature, of our government, in creating fair laws. Because I assure you, when the government passed the workers' compensation system, they did not intend for aggregate, small, 3 to 5 second periods.
It better be the case.
To be piled up into a lawsuit. That's not what they intended. But when you craft a law, lawyers review that law very closely, and they find ways to use it that were not originally intended. But it's very hard to change a law. So I think it speaks to the difficulty in drafting a law, because you do need to have rules, but the rules have to be reasonable. So the modern trend, Jack, luckily in the law, is to go away from strict violations and go towards a standard of reasonableness that a normal person can look at and decide, you know what, is that actually a reasonable violation or not? And in this situation, any reasonable person would say, no, that's not a violation.
All right, very, 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 very good, very good. And I really feel that I'm a reasonable person, right? I have no legal background, know nothing about it, but my common sense, my basic sense tells me that is for frivolous case. That's abuse, law abuse. And yet he has to face, poor Houston has to face a lawsuit,
right,
and tedious lawsuit, extensively long. And he said the other day to me that should I have the money and the time and the efforts, I would put him another restaurant, maybe 2 or 3. So I have to consume myself in fighting to where I was, to win myself to where I was. So that's unfair. Okay, now back to Tom Mansel's case. He's even worse because he meant well to let his employees eat together, enjoy their family style, whatever. And he got hurt by doing that. So is there a, I really respect your take when you say I'm asking an attorney to change their own aggressiveness, right? To almost going against the attorney's own will. But what you're saying, judging by your statement, you really make yourself look like a different kind of attorney. So that's why when I name the show, when I say good attorneys versus the bad ones, do you as attorney believe there are good attorneys and the bad ones?
Well, of course. But that's true in any profession. Mm-hmm. There's good doctors.
But
and
bad ones are attorneys too.
Absolutely.
They're licensed attorneys.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember, attorneys have to do several things to become a licensed attorney. Mm-hmm. And one test that most people are not aware of is the moral character examination. So we all passed the bar.
Okay, very good.
Very challenging to pass the bar.
I like that. Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's a good thing because lawyers have a lot of power and power can be abused. A lawyer can file a lawsuit on behalf of other people. If you do not have a license, you cannot file a lawsuit for other people. Mm-hmm. You can only do it for yourself. So it's a lot of responsibility, and it lets you affect people's lives because businesses, like your friend Houston, are directly impacted. So there's a moral character examination that is an extensive background check, and it actually is a written examination testing lawyers on ethical problems.
Oh, I see. You do test that. It's
Absolutely.
It's not just a slogan.
Absolutely. And in fact, there are many people that pass the bar but do not become attorneys because of the moral character examination.
All right.
But that said, it's not always enough, right? Because we know that there are lawyers that abuse the system. But it's worth noting that the community of lawyers takes this very seriously. The lawyer profession is one of the few areas that is self-regulated. The bar is not an entity of government. The lawyers have appointed that system themselves. So the self-governance and the self-infliction of ethics.
Discipline.
And the discipline.
Self-governing.
Is something
right?
that lawyers take very seriously.
All right, good, very good. My dear audience, I would like to put a stress on this one. If I could highlight, I really want to highlight it. Thanks to my friend Scott Wormuth, he really only chooses the good ones. My friend Nathaniel Clark is really a good attorney. I really like what he says in the just now statement. I encourage my audiences to all think the way I think. Attorneys are good ones, and there are bad ones, and good ones are bad ones. The huge difference is that they have a character, right, and ethnic character, and moral character.
Exactly.
The moral character is really a key element. And it's the first time, by the way, I heard that they really have a moral test. I thought it was only a slogan. All right. Okay, let's take a very short moment now. When we come back, could I bring something that probably people seldom ask? I get calls, unsolicited calls, too often. What am I supposed to do? You want to give me some advices, please?
It's an area I specialize in, and it's an area that most people do not know enough about, so I'm happy to talk about it.
All right, all right. I hit a jackpot. Okay, so stay with us, please. Hello, my friends, my dear audiences. Welcome back to the discussion about laws and attorneys. The title of today is Good Laws versus Bad Laws. We know we do have some bad laws, and good attorney versus bad ones. And unfortunately, we do have some bad ones. Well, that's a fact. To get to the highlight, I have the help of my good friend Scott Womath with the law offices of Scott Womath and Associates, and the best hand in that offices is my friend Nathaniel Clark. He's an attorney at law, very wonderful attorney, and to my surprise, he talks more moral issues rather than legal issues, which is quite seldom the case. I give you 2 hands for that.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate
Very good. All right. Like I said just now, I want to make good use of this moment when sitting face to face with a great lawyer. I myself, I don't know, I'm that popular, I don't know. I get too many unsolicited calls, right? All kinds of, right? So these days, from a consumer protection point of view, what can we do? What can the government do? What can the system do, please?
So this is an area that I became fascinated in early on in my legal career because it affects so many people, Jack.
Yes,
so many people.
Yes.
Your cell phone is an important area of your life. That's just the fact. That's just the reality of it. And when you're receiving unsolicited calls, when you're at work, when you're with your family, when you're doing your business, it's not okay because it takes over your property and it invades your privacy.
Yes.
Now, most people don't know that there is a federal law called the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, which, in my opinion, is a good law because this is a serious problem in the modern age. This law has actually been around for 20 years, but it only became important when cell phones became so popular. And what the law does is it actually prohibits using an auto dialer or those pre-recorded voice calls to dial someone without your permission. And every time one of those calls is made without your permission, it's a $500 fine. So telemarketing and collection firms have dramatically cut back the use of auto dialers and pre-recorded voice messages
due to the law
because of these fines.
Okay. And sometimes the language is even embarrassing.
Absolutely.
Right. And the other day I was driving a bunch of friends and was on the Bluetooth, and I picked up the phone. You know what he says? Oh, we know that you are being chased by IRS, but we can help. Oh, come on.
It's slanderous.
Yeah.
And it's designed to harass people.
I'm being chased by IRS.
First of all, it's not true, right? And it's slander.
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing.
They are taking chances. Among the folks, there must be one being chased, and it happens to the very one, all right? It sounds like click, right?
Exactly. Or
in my case, in front of my friends, that is loudly announced that we know that you are being chased by IRS. I've never been.
And even if you aren't, I think there's a lot of people that are just so susceptible and get pressured into giving in, even if they don't have IRS problems, because it's very scary, and these people are trained to be convincing. It's a scam.
Yeah. So what do? We understand that there's the law, there's the protection, whatever. For me to get to the one that announces in front of my friends that I was being chased by IRS, what am I supposed to do?
Well, there are ways to figure this out.
Okay.
And it is challenging, but it can be done. We've done it before. It's a bit of a rabbit hole, if you will, because the way phone systems work today are very complicated. And with voice over IP telephone systems, you'd be surprised at how many layers there are and walls that you have to uncover to get to the actual person that is making the call. But what we do when we file a lawsuit in federal court is issue a subpoena to the phone carriers, Jack. So we can issue subpoenas directly to AT&T, directly to Verizon, to figure out the identity of who owns that number.
But in my case, who am I suing?
Well, you don't know until you identify them.
I know, but what you want to do is that I have an object. I don't even have an object. I don't know who the object is.
Right. So you can actually file a complaint against an unknown defendant. A lot of people aren't aware of this.
Where to file?
Just like in a normal lawsuit right here in California. You file it in the Superior Court, but instead of Nathaniel Clark versus the defendant, it's Nathaniel Clark versus Doe, a fake name, an unknown person.
Okay, UFO.
And so but that gives you the power to issue a subpoena to the phone carriers, and then you figure out who the calling person is. Then you amend the lawsuit, and now you have an active lawsuit against the identified defendant. So it is possible to do, and in the right case, where you have been sufficiently aggrieved.
So if I pick my phone, call you, you would help me in this regard? Because I've been getting too many of those calls.
Absolutely. We help people all the time. We had a poor girl earlier this year who was being harassed by a debt collection company for a debt she did not owe. This poor girl was called over 70 times in a short period of time, being harassed by a debt collection company. We filed a suit for her and collected an award of $45,000 against this debt collection company for their abuse and invasion of her privacy. Now, most people have no idea that these types of remedies are available for simply receiving those types of phone calls, because the federal law is implicated, and this federal law recognizes that even though we're just talking about a phone call, in the right case, it can really invade people's privacy and cause significant harm.
I see.
Like in your case, Jack, that's unacceptable.
I've never thought of that. I've never thought of that. Never thought of that. You know what my friend says? Come on, we all owe something. They took it as a fact.
Right, right.
I was embarrassed. They said, "Come on, come on. We all owe something."
And the problem is these scam artists and telemarketers, they use pre-recorded messages that sound so professional that it can trick people.
And sometimes you couldn't even cut them off.
Right.
It went on and on and on and on. Yeah. All right, my dear audience, today I started to see another Twilight, which is good. I never thought that's available, honestly. I knew it is against the law, but which law, I don't know.
It's a very unknown law, and it's too bad because
what's the law name?
It's the Telephone Consumer Protection Act.
Telephone Consumer Protection Act.
Exactly.
It's a federal law.
It's a federal law. It's been around for 20 years.
And to say the example case again about a poor girl, we never heard of that.
No, this poor girl who uses her phone for a living because she is on call to help victims of abuse. Okay? So this girl is receiving calls all the time for very important issues to help people. Okay? For her to be simultaneously receiving harassing debt collection calls to the same phone that she uses to help these other poor people, when she doesn't even owe a debt to this company, shows the problem and the abuse of these automatic dialers. So the courts take it very seriously.
And you won the case.
Oh, we absolutely won the case. They agreed to pay her $45,000 for this harm.
All right, that's good. That's good. That's
Absolutely.
Good. All right, good. Thank God there is always finally we see some justice. Right,
It happens every once in a while, Jack.
Oh yeah, sure. But we did not know. Even me, I'm supposed to be a well-informed person. Lots of time,
A lot
my
of lawyers.
audience write to me in the email, say, Jack, how about this? How about that? They want me to do a show for talking about it. In other words, they're taking me as a well-informed person. I do not even know. In other words, number one, the existence of law. Number two, such a case could be won, and you did both.
And you shouldn't feel bad because, frankly, most lawyers are not even aware of this law. It's a very obscure
All right,
law.
if my dear friend Scott watches the show, and Scott, thank you very much for giving me down. All right, so stay with us. We'll be right back, please. Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audience. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow with G&E TV. Today is one of the very, very rare moments that I get such a huge chance to talk to a wonderful attorney, Nathaniel Clerk of Law Office of Scott Wormuth and Associates. And he is wonderful. He is proven wonderful. And he talks wonderfully, right? And I got lots of area, mystifying area clarified, and I learned something new. I did not even know when you receive so many unsolicited calls, advertising calls, you can actually have a case, right? Okay, now, may I ask you something else, please?
Absolutely, Jack.
Okay, I'm a person who calls on so strongly to stop a frivolous lawsuit. On the other hand, when I see something which is unfair, I even want to get involved. I even want to sue them myself. Last Sunday, me and my wife were eating in a Chinese restaurant. All of a sudden, there's a baby crying, baby 3, 4, 5 months, because of hot soup, boiling hot soup, is the bean curd soup. You know bean curd?
It's delicious.
Yeah, bean curd soup. Yeah, delicious. Bean curd soup on the baby's thigh. There's a skin about this big, peeled off. Because it's tender, such a young baby, tender skin. If it's not on my thigh, might be okay, but to that baby, look about this much, the peeled off. And nobody said anything, no apology, no nothing. The boss and the employees started mopping the floor already. The mother of the baby started crying, so helpless. Oh, I picked up the phone. I called 911. Monterey Park was good. Within 1.5 minutes, an ambulance, a fire truck, and a cop car were there.
That's great.
Right, so, in such case, if people who wants to stand for justice, I know that that parent or the baby deserve a number one apology, number two a timely whatever care medically, something like that, right? So, as attorney, how do you interpret the situation that I was in, please?
Well, it's unfortunate. First of all, the law offices of Scott Wormuth, we primarily do personal injury law, and I take injuries very seriously because I see how it affects people, and I know that it must have been very difficult on the family in this circumstance. It raises, to me, it goes back to the issue of morality and law, because here you have an example of the restaurant owner perhaps acting immorally, because A,
I agree.
An apology would have been appropriate. B, helping the family and this poor child obviously takes priority over cleaning up the floor.
He should be the one calling, right?
Absolutely. Now he has a duty going back to the law, going away from morality, a duty to his customers to act reasonably and to take whatever necessary steps are required to protect his clientele. Now, absolutely, he should have called 911. Does it amount to a lawsuit? Here's the issue. What are the exact circumstances of this boiling cup of soup? There's multiple problems here. It could have been too hot. It could have been above the industry standard of acceptable heat to give to someone.
Yeah, sure.
If that's the case, absolutely, that would be a negligence lawsuit.
But judging by the piece of skin that fell off,
it seems that there's something wrong there.
it was a kind of pink skin. Hurt me to even look at it.
Now the problem is, how did it spill? Because from a defense attorney's perspective, they would want to know, how did it spill?
The clerk herself, the waitress herself, argued that, it's the baby, she grabbed it.
Well, see,
I told my wife, she's underage.
Right.
She can kill somebody for free.
And if they knew, if the restaurant knew that this soup was going to be eaten or consumed by the child, by the baby, then it's even more unacceptable. And it's a clearer case of liability to me. If it was community soup for the table, it's a little less clear because
Can you move it away from the baby?
Right, of course, of course, of course. And there's no question about it. But remember, moving forward with a lawsuit requires judgment and emotion because you want to be passionate about a case. And this is a case.
I am,
very. This is a case that it's easy to be passionate about.
Yeah.
But you need to make sure it's a case you can win. So we would want to do more investigation and figure out exactly what's going on.
Tell me, please, if I want to continue getting involved.
Right.
I know these parents, they do not speak the language.
Sure.
Right. That's their problem. Right. And fact was that their PD, Monterey Park PD was there. If I go Monterey Park PD, I ask for the public record about that day, who was the one, who was the baby. I could easily get to the mother. Am I right?
If a police report was made, absolutely.
Of course, and there couldn't be no police report because there are 3 trucks there.
I would imagine,
yes. Right. So according to public record, there I can get the parents, right? So if the parents call the attorney, say, hey, I need a representation because I want to get things fair to me. So that's by logic? Is it logic?
That makes perfect sense, and that's what someone should do. If they're unclear about what their options are, they should always consult with an attorney because most attorneys
of course.
will do so for
Even
free.
for that purpose, they will call, right?
Absolutely. And the language should not be a barrier.
You have Chinese-speaking employees all the time.
Our law firm is dedicated to communicating with everybody in the community. We speak Spanish, Mandarin, Cantonese, and we can communicate with just about anybody in the community.
Yeah. So this is a statement made by an attorney who calls to stop the frivolous case.
That's
so
right.
This is not a frivolous case.
This is not a frivolous case.
Serious case. A baby, small baby, 3, 4, 5 months maximum, I believe. If you look at the skin, you want to cry.
It sounds terrible.
It peels off. It's a pink skin. It's fell off by the fact she's rubbing because it's hers, right? So rubbing. Oh, fell off, right? So that hurts. Anyway. So sometime when you talk about attorneys, talk about laws, you're talking about human animals who fights in court like serious, bloody, and quite seldom, you see an attorney with hearts. Well, we do want to continue to insist that attorneys should be the ones, good attorneys should be the ones with a big heart.
Attorneys are the gatekeepers, so it's their responsibility.
Gatekeepers, okay. Hey, Scott Woman, thank you very much for giving me Nathaniel Clark. He is wonderful, all right? My dear audience, we're a little over time, but we deserve it. Thank you very much for watching, and this is not the only time And can you please, when I have a next grandbaby, I still want to call you, please.
Absolutely, I would love to.
Very good. And thank you very much, Nathaniel.
My pleasure,
Thank
sir.
you.